Well, good day, everybody. Welcome to the August episode of Coffee Talk Forum, presented by ISSA Canada and the Residential Cleaning Committee. Joining us today is Judith Bragg, owner of Clean Club Calgary in Calgary, Alberta, and Mark Baker, president of Motivated Brands, Inc. So just a reminder to everybody, if you have any questions or commentary, please include them in our chat or raise your hand and we'll get to it. So today we're going to be talking about if I knew now if I knew then what I know now, how would things have been different for my business? You know, given hindsight is always 2020, it always seems that, you know, man, it just could have been so much easier. So Judith, do you have any thoughts? You want to start us off?
I do have tons of thoughts. So I've been in the business for 12 years myself. And I started Clean Club Calgary almost 3 years ago now. And before that, I was in a sort of like a franchise system. So it's given me a lot of food for thought. So if I consider that Clean Club Calgary is only 3 years old, I think that a lot of things have happened. So if I look back, I have an extensive admin background, which I do understand that a lot of cleaning business owners are not privy to. And for me, it's a big help because my mindset is very different. So something that I would have liked to started earlier, in a way I couldn't have because my hands were tied because of the franchise situation. But we just started talking about the training program. So I moved all of my training online with Trainual. And not only you're able to give video training to your team members before they start, so they actually see what they're getting themselves into, but you're able to set the tone as a business owner, and you're able to deliver your message about, you know, who you are, what you represent, what your core values are. And I have a whole like an hour on that only. So it's really good. So I would have liked to have that earlier because I didn't hire for values earlier. I literally just hired a body into a job, which I understand now coming out of COVID is also a struggle. So, but that's something that for me works really well. Another thing is I finally, believe it or not, I've been in business for 12 years. I'm finally not picking up the phone. So, and I know, and I know for you guys, business owners, especially the ones that have that go-getter, you know, and I'm not saying you're not having that mentality, but what I'm saying is everybody's different. So I'm really much a go-getter and I want the work. I want my team members to have those promised hours. I don't want to be another cleaning company who hires them, promises them full-time hours, and they end up working 3-4 hours a day. Nobody can live off of that. So I want those hard workers to be working. So I do pick up the phone, you know, in the evening, and I do pick up the phone on the weekend. But now I just hired an answering service. So when we're not in the office, even the off hours, so from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., somebody answers the phone. And then again on the weekend from 9 to 4. And I think that's plenty because you know, that way I'm kind of coaching my customers that it's okay that, you know, we're not available 24/7. My website and Google doesn't say that I'm available 24/7. So these are just some of the smaller things. And then there's just bigger things like about leadership. If I could have afforded it, I would have taken my emerging leader certificate earlier. But what Clean Club Calgary allowed me is that I was making enough money so I can actually write off my education through Clean Club Calgary, because the certification was very comfortable I could take either just a day course or 2 days course or 3 days course in 5 years. So I think that's great. But it was expensive, like just the 1 day course could have cost anywhere between $400 to $500, right? A 2 day course, $800. So I really had to space it out. But hindsight, Clean Club Calgary allowed me to do that because I was making enough money so I can reinvest that money in my education.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so these were some of the things, and Mark will probably prompt me on some of this stuff when he will share some of his experiences.
You have to unmute, Mark.
Unmute. The word of 2 years now.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm not good at muting, so I really didn't want to interrupt, so I muted myself because I'm trying to grow as a person, Judith. Well, first, Tanya, it's so good to see you always. I hope everything's been well. You've been playing some softball up there in Ontario.
Oh, yes.
Good. And Judith, I hope things are good in Calgary up there and business is good. Mask came off yesterday in Newfoundland, Labrador, so no more masks in this province.
Wow.
So, yeah, I went to I work out 3 times a week at 5 a.m., my personal trainer. So I went over to the gym to do it. And I said, no mask today. So, well, I'm still going to ask people to wear them. And I said, and I'm never going to come back in your building again. I do not have to wear a mask and I'm not going to. So he laughed at me. He was pulling my chain. So that's been really good. This is a deep subject, man. This is a deep subject because what it boils down to is that my brother Roy, who's very successful. I mean, he started off as a chem tech with a chem degree in math, double degree, one of those $24,000 a year, putting bulk chemicals into drums, paint cans into drums, and worked his way up. And now he's got a big salary. He manages a major waste management company. Like, he's a very successful, highly paid executive. And he used to always say to me all the time, Mark, you don't know what you don't know. And I used to think he was a condescending SOB, and sure enough, I'm 6 years into this particular business and man, you just don't know what you don't know. And then it's only once you experience it that you know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you look back on it and go, oh, if I had only known that, and even like, Judith has been at this a lot longer than me, Judith might, just hypothetically speaking, might say something to me and I'll be like, she doesn't know. Right. And then, you experience it a little while later and it's like, oh man, why didn't I listen to Judith? And that's the cleaning business, man. And that's all businesses. So the reason why this topic even came about was because Tanya and I were talking and I was having one of those passionate rants that I have sometimes. And Tanya's, a communications expert. So she took her notes and forget about all that stuff he said, but that's a good topic. Right. So she kind of brought it to the forefront. And what happened was that I started this little cleaning company in St. John's, Newfoundland. And of course, well, you all guys know I'm a Newfie, right? So you know our reputation, fun-loving, easygoing people, But the reality is Newfoundland's a small place. We have a big voice, but we only have like under 500,000 people in our entire province. And take out the mainland portion, Labrador. It's only a 100,000 person city. I mean, I have access to 70,000 people. My average clean price is $105. And I started cleaning houses as a solo, and I'm embarrassed. I would be embarrassed to say, except for I made something of myself, but I was on welfare as an adult. Not directly after, I didn't go well for the cleaning company. There was a few things in between, but I mean, I was broke, man. And, I even had a vehicle. I just had to convince people to drive me to houses to do walkthroughs. And if I got the job and made money, I would pay them back. Wow. It was hard. 4 years later, 2016, I hit 1.87 million in sales in this little town. And that was a lot of work, and I'm very tired. But you know something? I got to be honest with you. I knew that it didn't have to be chaos because, I actually hired Michael Gerber of the eMyth Manager. I actually paid him like $3,000 a month to be a personal coach. And I knew these things existed. I actually went to business school when I was young. So I knew these types of things. You got to work on your business, not in it. But it's one thing to read these books, and it's another thing to execute it. And something, my life was just chaos, man. It was chaos. I had two managers, and man, I could convince anyone to give everything they got. I mean, I was a basketball coach. We'd win the provincial championships because my kids would work harder, because I could help them believe in themselves and work harder. That's my MO. That's what I can do. Trade my name, motivated, house cleaning. But the thing is that at the end of the day, I was spending more time managing two managers. We were open from 6 a.m. to 12 midnight, 7 days a week with managers overlapping, trying to run the show. And it was just chaos, man. My life was chaos. It sucked. I developed anxiety, and I don't even have anxiety. Like, my wife has it, clinically has it. I developed situational anxiety. Who's not going to show up this morning? I knew if I had 60 people out working, I knew a third of them weren't coming to work, and the other third sucked. And then the third that were worth talking about, I mean, those poor people, well, their reward for being dependable and honest and hardworking was to get the crappy jobs and to clean up the mess of the other people. Well, that's a good way to lose those people. So anyway, we get to 1.87 million in sales, and I decide that I'm going to launch across all of Canada at one time. I get 7,000 applications. I invest heavily, every cent I ever made, into this software. The software was a flop. And I'm talking, there's a major class action lawsuit against the provider of this software. I'm not involved in it. I prefer to look forward and not backwards. I have other things to worry about. But I mean, the company's definitely going down due to the lawsuit. So it didn't work. It was a broken software. Well, that hurt. Well, then all of a sudden, the government of Newfoundland Labrador comes in and says, well, you need to shut down. You can't clean houses. My wife doesn't work. She has heart disease. I got a new toddler. I mean, this was not good. I went from, making we're building out 36,000 a week residential here, right? And I went from that to broke, and it wasn't easy. So I had to decide what I was going to do. And what I decided to do is that once I was on that hamster wheel, right, the ability to make the changes operationally to the business, or say like culturally to the corporate culture, as Judith referred to, right? Or whatever, like that, the only way I could do that was just to work more. And don't get me wrong, look, I'm all about the 4-hour work week. I have a personal assistant. I don't book my own doctor's appointments. I don't fix my own car. I don't put gas in my own car. And all that's handled by other people. And I'm not lying to you. But I just had to work more than everyone else. And I knew I could do that. But even to this day, I get up 4 o'clock every morning and start work. Except for Sundays, I get up at 6. Take a little bit of an extra rest on Sundays. But you can only stretch yourself out so much, right?
Yeah.
And eventually, so what I ended up doing during the pandemic in the early days, I would just stay up 3 days straight. And I would maybe sleep like 1 hour out of 36. And then I'd get a 6-hour night and do it again. Right? But I did it different this time, because what I said to myself was, to hell with it. And here's what I want to share. Because I try to get this point across to people, and I'm going to quickly tell you where I am now. But I try to get this point across to people, and they don't get it. So I made up a little story. Canadian Tire. I'm in Newfoundland. Canadian Tire's everywhere. I guess where you guys live in Canada, Canadian Tire's everywhere too. All right. So imagine like, a sale goes on space heaters in Canadian Tire. It's cold down here and cold up there. So, we all go out and buy these space heaters that are on for $40, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, there's a fire, house on fire in Mount Pearl, Newfoundland. Fire department runs over to do that, right? Okay, boom, another house catches on fire. Fire department goes over to put that one out. Another house catches on fire. We got 3 houses on fire. This is nuts. It's never happened all at the same time. First fire person pulls up and says, hey, this space heater is causing it. And someone says, well, look, you're going to have to call Canadian Tire and get that off the shelves. Oh, we can't. We got to go over and put out this fire. Well, next you know, there's like 60 fires going on all across Newfoundland. And then at some point, someone's got to say, let that house burn down and go fix the issue and take these off the shelves before the rest of the city burns down. And that's what I felt like I was living. And then I said, when that pandemic started, I said, you know what? Let this burn down. I had 800 customers in Newfoundland. And I called them, I just stopped working for all of them. The pandemic was the excuse. And I said, what if I could start Motivated Maids over again and do it right, knowing what I know now? How would I build this company? Because at first, I mean, listen, I had to eat. I just wanted to eat. Like it was hard, right? I had a lot of debt. It was all coming in. I had a car. So while you're doing that, what ends up happening is that and you're willing to let it burn down temporarily, then you put yourself in a situation where you start saying, what can I do now? So what I did was I said, how will this business model have to work if I was to solve all of the problems that exist? Right? And then I mapped out the user experience for the end user, because in the cleaning business, getting customers is easy. Like, it is the easiest part. 90% is just existing. You'll get customers just because you exist. It's will you be in business 5 years from now? We'll be in business 10 years from now, because most people won't be, especially in our industry. Then you got to say to yourself, well, how do I not turn over people? And my turnover rate was in the hundreds of percent, which is the average in Canada and the US. We have an 8% turnover right now. That means when we hire someone, they're not going anywhere. And that is amazing to have an 8% turnover rate. We don't get up and worry about what's going to happen. So by putting out that one fire and letting the place burn down and dealing with that, which took a year's worth of hard work, it took 6 years really, but ultimately the last year, well, that freed up that energy and time for me to say, okay, well, what can we do to improve, like our online training? Well, Trainual, we've been using Trainual for years. I'm a certified Trainual consultant. And the fact of the matter is that, I believe I have the world's best online training program, because I bought Debbie Sardan's program. Great. I bought the Made Academy's program. If it can be bought, I bought it. I built one that I feel was stronger. And then, the PHC courses and the home cleaning technician courses, I've done all those and just built something that I felt was great, right? And like Judith said, made it better. So, that's the real questions a person's got to ask themselves. So what I would advise is step out of your business for a weekend. And I know it's hard because you're going to lose customers. You're not going to answer the phone. It depends on what level you're currently at, right? But step out of it for a weekend. You know what? Tell your husband or your wife that, I'm take care of the youngster. Like, I'm gone. Like, literally, take the $500. Go get a cottage somewhere. Turn off the phone. Like, literally, turn off the phone. And sit down and give yourself permission to think about your business from a bird's eye view and ask yourself, what's the real problem here in my business? What's the one thing that if I could fix would make things better? And then start working on that one thing relentlessly until it's gone. Now, here's where I am today, okay? I own a company called Motivated Brands, Inc., and I'm registered to do business across the second largest country, geographically speaking, on planet Earth. That's no small feat. All right, we're working with a franchise consulting firm out of Georgia, and I'm days away from launching our new websites. We have 5 services that are coming out across all of Canada simultaneously, before Christmas. We have 32 other services that are rolling out in the next 36 months. We've invented a brand new form of franchising that's never been done in the world before. We've trademarked parts of it. And you know what? Our providers are customers. They're customers, right? And that's what the pandemic was for me, because I started with that. What is the one issue? And the one issue for us was turnover. Okay. And at first you're hearing these well, if you just pay me $600, I'll teach you how to fix turnover. And this person will fix you how to do that. And this person will make you an owner, $1 million owner, and all this stuff, right? But once you listen to all of that, ultimately, it's well, you've got that information, right? You've taken it in. It's well, now it's up to you, man. No one was going to give Mark Baker, take this green pill. This morning, do you know what I did yesterday? We can do what's called schedule. This is a true story. And I'll obviously Judith talk for a second, then I'm coming back. Just kidding. But no, this is a true story. We do what's called schedule optimization. Now, but here's the thing. When you optimize a professional house cleaner's schedule to maximize the amount of availability that they have that is billable, right? So let's say they have an 8-hour availability, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. You want them working 7 hours of that. You want to build them out for 7 hours. You want to give them an hour in between their cleans so that they can, travel and have a break physically from a hard job and eat, Now, but when you say, for example, turn over a professional house cleaner, well, you've got to go to Miss Fitzgerald and say, Miss Fitzgerald, we got to move you from Wednesdays to Tuesdays now. Sorry. And it's going to, not instead of an afternoon clean, it's a morning clean. Right? Then what are you going to do? Call Miss Fitzgerald and say, well, Miss Fitzgerald, now we're going to optimize your schedule. So the reason we're going to put you over here, well, we don't even give them reasons. They want us bad enough. We just say, hey, your Tuesday's at 9, right? We put them over there. But if you're constantly changing the customers, like you're becoming a problem, because they don't hire us to clean their houses per se. They hire us to make their really hard lives easier, right?
Yeah.
Like life is hard. Well, we know how hard our lives are. I mean, I don't know, you probably have kids too, right? You know, or at least a husband who's like a kid, right? So at the end of the day, I mean, like life is hard, man. And daycares and schools and problems. It's like, and they need to know we're going to show up 100% of the time. Now, because I know our providers are going to show up, I sat down with Melissa's schedule and I trained how to optimize it. And I made Melissa $10,850 extra this year. Mm-hmm. And I've done that in 30 minutes by taking her schedule and maximizing the schedule with customers. And then I created a screen share with my cloud app and said, hello, Miss Fitzgerald. Thank you for being a loyal, at this time, Motivated Maids, because we haven't launched the new brand until next week. Being a Motivated Maids customer, I want to let you know that we're optimizing our schedules. We're happy to say, as you know, that Melissa is extremely dependable. And she's actually just signed on as a franchisee for 5 years, which means she'll be your cleaner for the foreseeable future. But we do have to maximize our schedule, because we discovered she was losing $10,850 per year in gross income due to an inefficient schedule. So therefore, we moved you to Thursday afternoons at 2. If you have any questions or concerns, reach out. 30-second video, sent it over to her, done. Mm-hmm. Who's going to argue with that? But you can't get to the point where, but that also makes me an extra $2,000 a year too, right? Add that up, multiply it by a couple hundred cleaners. I mean, like at the end of the day, my point is that you can't get to that point where you are doing these other higher level things that people talk about if you're still dealing with turnover, right? So I would have licked the turnover issue way sooner. And the second thing that I would have done was I would have done brand values. Now, I'm going to recommend you check out a company called Column 5 Media, okay? And they're a content creation company. They make content for people down in New York and California, right? Big company. But what happened was their customers would come to them and their customers would say things like, can you create this content? And they said, well, sure. Tell me about your company so we can create consistent content that reaches the target audience and gets the desired result from that target audience, right? It makes sense, right? Guess what? Like 75% of the customers couldn't even describe to the content creation company who they are, their purpose, what they do, who they do it for, how they do it for them. It was unbelievable. Wow. So like Column 5 is like, well, my God, we're going to have to, offer this service. Then Column 5 realized that we can't do it either. So what they ended up doing was taking about 18 months and painstakingly built a step-by-step guide on how to create a brand identity. And they created a guide, and I used that guide to create a brand identity for my launch here now. Yeah. And let me tell you something. Painful. 12 weeks of pure and utter hell is what it was.
Wow.
But you know something? It was the best thing I ever did, because we now have a very succinct and clear, unique selling proposition that we can articulate, and our business model changed around that. We have a very clear, because like a brand strategy is your operational business model and the goals of that. And then you got your brand identity. Well, what's your brand identity? Well, that's what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? And then, of course, what you need to do is you need to put forth the messaging, whether it's visual messaging or whether it's auditory messaging or print messaging. You need to put that in. Tanya is well educated in this field, so she knows about this. This is her thing. And you need to put that forth to people. And you need to marry the two, and that's your brand strategy, right? So what I would do is that if I'm in a situation where I had to just clean houses and pay the bills because of the chaos, I would set aside an hour to 2 a day, and I would work on my brand strategy, and I would follow the Column 5 Media, and I wouldn't skip a heartbeat. I would skip a heartbeat. Final point I want to make is what I would do is master your time. Look, we all lie to ourselves, man. That's how humans do, right? at varying degrees, at varying points of our life. Like, we like to hope as we get older. I'm 47 now. I mean, hopefully I've grown as a human, but we all lie to ourselves. But we never lie to ourselves when we look in the mirror. We know how abhorrent we can be sometimes, right? Well, like, one of the big things I've done was I just mastered my mornings. And what I meant by is, like, I always had to get up early because, I mean, ultimately, if I was in bed and I started thinking, okay, well, so-and-so's calling in sick and so-and-so's calling in sick and this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And I can't let down Miss Smith. And, all of a sudden you get those feelings and feet on the floor. And, we've all been there. Yeah. But here's the thing. If you're playing with your alarm in the morning, you can't even master your own morning. If you can't master your own morning, how the hell do you expect to win the Olympics? Because let's face it, business is the Olympics. What we do is harder than the Olympics. It's day in, day out competition.
Yeah.
In capitalism. And capitalism does not forgive anybody. Capitalism do not care. Right? So the thing is that I master my morning. I just said to hell with this. And I just got up 4:00 every morning. And what I done was I took Mel Robbins, not that I read her book, I saw a little clip, and she says, say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and put your feet on the floor. And I started doing that. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and my feet go on the floor. And I mean, sometimes I'm afraid I'm going to trip up at the cat and die because it's like I am as a zombie. And I get my ass up over those stairs and I open that computer and I do what's called grooming my day. And I give myself 1 hour every day from 4 to 5 that I work on the highest level things. I look at the big picture. I see where everything is at. And I use software to help me now. And then I decide. And what I do is that I choose my one thing of the day. And that's it. One thing. Like every day of my life, I work on only one thing. Now, at the beginning, there might have been other subsidiary things. And then I started to leverage those out. And now, of course, I have a very successful company and I have other successful people that assist me. And I work on one thing. One thing today is that we're launching our websites. That's it. So now we're making the project management for that. So, but you got to master your time. You got to master your time. Like if you're like nobody can call me. That's the big thing. Like nobody. Like this phone here does not give a notification. Okay. The only notification that comes on this phone is the daycare for Scarlett May. Obviously, if the daycare calls, I'm answering. Right. My wife, my 76-year-old father, and my identical twin 23-year-old daughters. No one else can call me. If they call, it says, call my personal assistant. If someone emails me, they get a response. Well, you've all got it. Due to high workload, I'm unable to check my email except for between 12 and 12:30 from Monday to Thursday. If this is a pressing issue that needs immediate attention, please contact Shania Williams at swilliams@motivatorbrand.ca. And all of a sudden, my inbox doesn't blow up anymore. Then I just unsubscribed everything. Like control your time. Like control what comes into your world. So like living your life on purpose. And you start small, but over time, man, it gets momentum and it really gets powerful. Because then you start being more selective. Final short story, and I'll finish. I remember when the first newspaper ad man walked into my office, right? I thought I was so important. He walked in, he showed me the advertising and the price and all the things that he was going to do for me. And well, I made it, man. I'm on the radar for the newspaper and they're coming in to talk to me. And wow, he's walked right in my front door. If someone walked in my front door on an appointment now, I'd grab him by the arse and throw him out the front door and say, go make an appointment that I might see you. And I'm not saying that to be rude. I'm saying that like time, I have the same amount of time in my day as Michael Jordan had in his day. I have the same amount of time in my day as Jennifer Meek got right there, and Louise, right? And Diana and Pamela, Judith. Some of us do a lot more in our time. Some of us do a lot less. But I know one thing is I don't care if you do a lot or less. I'm in competition with myself. But what I will say is that I will control what comes into my life and not have other people control it. And that's the biggest thing that I wish I had understood and known, earlier.
Fair enough.
People might think is arrogant, but hey, at the end of the day, I think we'll do 10 million this year. So
I don't think it's arrogant. It works for you. And that's the most important thing, that everybody needs to do whatever works for them, right? So
one thing is for certain is that
small,
if you don't manage your time, it don't work for anybody though, Judith. Like you have as a business owner, right?
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is when you start out your business, you are, like doing everything because you're the Jack or Jill of all trades, right? So, but eventually you learn. I think you learn to, manage your skills and manage your time, as you said, and manage your people, like what you can delegate. Because eventually, as you know, in order for you to grow, you need to invest money. And then that little money that you have, you're investing into the growth of your business. And eventually you're able to invest it into things that you're talking about, because now you can afford those things, right? But when people start out, it's just a bit of a gong show, right?
Hence why setting aside a couple of hours every single time religiously to focus on the one thing that's going to push your needle forward.
Exactly.
I had about 100 things 90% done, and that went on for years. It really did. It went on for years. And then all of a sudden one day it's like, God, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm better than this. Why can't I get this done?
Yeah.
And then I took that attitude that I'll finish that one thing. And then once that got done, it was like, it took 17 times longer than I thought,
Yeah.
But then there was another thing and another thing. Before you know it, you look back and it's like, wow, look where I am today.
Absolutely. I mean, I look back and it's just like, growing up, like I am so different what it was when I, was in elementary or high school or in my early 20s. I'm just so different now, and different things are important to me now. So, yeah.
Well, I had hair in my early 20s, and it was good hair too. They used to call me hair guy in university. And now look at this stuff. I had to grow out of my chin to make up for it. Just kidding. Look, guys, does anyone got any questions in particular that they got for Judith or myself or Tanya, who's also very experienced in many areas? If you do, unmute yourself and ask a question. We're happy to answer it.
Small group, yeah. So please feel free to jump into the discussion. There's Pamela.
I seem to see an ongoing theme, and Mark, we've talked about this before too, of finding efficiencies, right? And both of you have found your efficiencies over the course of your business. But would you say that when all this COVID pandemic started and all your businesses were shut down, there's that hunger, right? Like that fight or flight type of instinct that comes into play, and the income is not there to pay the bills. Did that time when you were shut down give you that opportunity to reflect and help you with, planning a different path forward?
If you can avoid it. Judith?
So we did not shut down. But our business went considerably down. We had over 56 regular clients cancel cleanings, regular cleanings, weekly, biweekly, or monthly, and that's our bread and butter. So it was actually a great opportunity for me to clean house, because I did have, we were busy, and I did have some team members who were just not, what I would call good team members. You have your A and B players, and they were more like C and D. So that was a good opportunity to clean house. I think for me as a business owner was also a big eye opener, because you have people who depend on you. You have people for whom you provide jobs. And because of that, they are able to feed their families. So I take that very seriously. So I think it just lit a fire under me a little bit, just to, continue to improve, continue to hustle and bustle. And, we talked about it before the call started, and I just stayed on my own lane. I didn't care what anybody else was doing in my industry. I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to carve my own path. And actually that makes me very different in the Calgary cleaning community here. So I would say it just was a wake-up call a little bit as well. Like, oh, okay, so you can just sit on your ass and do nothing, right? So, because it was getting that way. It was getting a little bit, stale for me as a business owner. And I am sorry if I say this, but COVID made it very exciting because one, not only new opportunities came about, that the disinfecting and the disinfection gun and, the corporate clients, commercial, because I want to move into that arena. I'm doing both. I also have some commercial clients. So it became a bit of a challenge, which was kind of good after, being in the business for 12 years. So that's what it was for me.
Well, COVID was a godsend for me. I got no complaints at all. I mean, it was miserable at first. I mean, I invested hundreds of thousands of that. Well, every cent I made, I invested into this software, and that went down. So that sucked. My car got towed because I couldn't pay it. They only waited 3 months. They cut my power. I owed them $1,500. Of course, the first thing I did was, you got to keep in mind, I had taken everything I had made in 5 years, and against the advice of friends of mine who said, like my friend Alonzo Adams, who never said specifically to me on this incident, but made it quite clear, save your money for a rainy day, man. Cash is king, right? When I was seeing him down in Dallas a couple of years ago, I think you were down to that one, Tanya. I think I knew you then. I don't know, Judith, if you were in Dallas. Were you making it to Dallas a few years ago? Well, I didn't know you then. In his little seminar, I don't know if you've seen it, but he's a cash is king, and he told his story. And I invested everything because, hey, well, all or nothing, right? Yeah, well, guess what? Pandemic, government shuts us down. All of a sudden, I got no money coming in. I just gave up all my cash. Zero money coming in. What am I going to do? Am I going to do cash in my child's RESP? Well, that's not happening. So it was not good. So I just had to stop paying the bills. Matter of fact, the only reason we got open was because I just hounded the minister of health until finally his assistant spoke to me. And then I convinced them, as a person who is GBAC certified, for clean disinfecting for the coronavirus, I was able to present myself as an expert, which basically came from my affiliation with the ISSA, my training. And they saw me as credible, and we had, very frank discussions about cleaning for the virus. And then I was able to articulate that, look, we're essential workers. And I was able to articulate that, the way we would go about conducting ourselves was essential, and they added house cleaning onto the people who are allowed to clean. Problem was, at that time, there's no one wanted anyone in your house. They're all a bunch of scaredy cats, right? So, right. And listen, I'm not judging people. I shouldn't even say that, because you do you. Everyone does themselves, right? But I mean, it wasn't good. But I don't know, man. I believe in myself. I knew, unless I die or something, which could happen. I was getting through this. So I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and making iteration changes. Here's one big thing: firing people. Guys, I cannot get across to you the importance of this piece of paper right here. This piece of paper right here and these documents behind it, they tell us how to behave. For example, that's why I keep going back to this brand values thing. We have 14 values. Now look, we all know about the Exxon Valdez up in Alaska. I think what the narrative was that the skipper was drunk or something, and he grounded it, and one of the biggest oil spills in the world. And of course, that was Alaska, but it came down BC, right? And of course, now do you really think that ExxonMobil at the time didn't have these big plaques with all their values on the wall? Damn well they did, right? But, well, was it followed? Because word was back then they were trying to cover it up, right? So the thing is that when I made brand values, I spent 12 weeks doing 14 values, right? Why? Because when I get up each day and I encounter use cases, whether it's my support agents that do it, my support team I'm onboarding overseas, whoever it is, or whether it gets escalated to me, I know how I'm going to behave in every single situation, even if it's a new situation. For example, I'm gonna read out to you punctuality. To us, punctuality is more than ensuring that one is on time or early for every commitment. It means never being quick to reschedule a commitment, and look at doing so only as an absolute last resort, to be done very rarely and only in truly extenuating and uncontrollable circumstances, and even then only after every other alternative has been exhausted. Punctuality is the ultimate sign of professionalism and ensures we stand out as dependable and trustworthy. Okay? And I want to read one more. Fairness. To us, we break fairness into two parts: fairness in decision-making and fairness in pricing. So what that means is when you go to the mechanic, so I went to Avalon Ford, local Ford dealership, who told me, $12,000, or not Avalon, Cabot Ford, $12,000 to get my vehicle fixed. Then I went to the mechanic who works inside a Ford dealership, and he fixed it for $600. I had 4 different mechanics tell me my turbo was gone, and it was thousands of dollars. And this guy's like, yeah, you see this little thing I got to plug in here that I have free in my toolkit? I'm just going to plug that in, your turbo's fixed. Well, that's not fairness in pricing. Fairness in pricing means something. Mm-hmm. So, but fairness in decision-making, like we know. So, we had a situation where I fired 2 people last week, right? And it's not that I'm quick to fire, is that I don't need to deliberate. Like I don't get held ransom by cleaning pros anymore. We attract people who share our values, which is really what Judith is speaking on there, corporate culture. And then as we attract people who share our values, those people perform. And as those people perform and their lives get better, people around them notice their lives getting better. And then they say, well, my life is better because I'm working with this great company, and here's how it is. And then, that creates that snowball, right? So but if someone doesn't meet your standards, well, you know what to do. You know what to do, right? And that means that you're going to call Mrs. Smith and Mr. Smith and say, Mrs. Smith, unfortunately, we can no longer perform cleans for you because we do not have a provider to service you at this time. Oh, that's awful. I really depend on you. Absolutely, sir. We depend on you too. But unfortunately, the provider that we had wasn't living up to our brand standards, causing us to reschedule constantly. And that wouldn't have been fair to you or to us. When we do have a provider that can service your area and service your needs, we will contact you. And if you're in need, we would like to have a second chance with you. In the meantime, I can give you this name of 2 great companies in the area that may actually have a provider that can service your needs. That's a hard thing to do. But guess what? Honesty is one of our brand values. So is accountability, right? So and then what happens is I start behaving in that manner. So when I had to let this person go, I said, I want to thank you very much for your service to date. But I do want to let you know that we have 5 incidences in your first month with us, and that you're not able to meet the level of dependability that this company and our customers require of us. So therefore, I'm going to terminate your contract immediately. Now, I do wish you the very best luck in all your future endeavors. And if at some time in the future you feel you might be able to meet our dependability level, we'd always be open-minded towards considering an application from you again. If you have any questions, concerns, please reach out. Okay. That was it. And that meant canceling a $600 clean the next morning. Maybe we get in a lawsuit or something because they got a move going on and they're closing the house. Who knows? But at the end of the day, dependability is one of our core values. And if you're not dependable, then you can't be a part of our organization, because you're much better off making it work with 10 cleaners who meet your core values than you are with 37 that make your life hell. Sure. Right? And that's something I wish I had realized. Another big thing is that I done my research, right? So I got online, the internet, and I researched all of the problems with the industry. And I said, well, I'm going to build Canada's #1 brand, which I'm still determined to do, by the way. But at that time, I was like, okay, well, these are the problems with the industry, and I'm going to fix them by doing this. And I'm willing to do what others are not to fix these things, right? So I had a list of things that I thought mattered to providers, because I still even knew back then that, obviously the key is getting people to do the work, not getting the work, right? So I would, do these group meeting interviews, and I'd list off all these different things that we offered as a company, right? And what I thought mattered to people and what matters to people 6 years later are very different. Now, let me tell you my experience, okay? Our reliability is unbelievable. Our turnover rate is 8%. Our satisfaction rate is 95% through surveys that 95% of our customers respond to. I'm not saying this to be braggadocious or whatever the hell they call it, or braggadocious. I'm saying this because it's a statistical fact, right? But it wasn't always that way. We had bad relations with our providers before the pandemic. And our past providers, we had bad relations. I almost got canceled on Facebook. And you know something? When I almost got canceled, no, I'm serious, man. My business almost got canceled. It wasn't good, especially when most of the stuff that was being said was fabricated. But within that, there was a lot of golden nuggets of truths. And I had to take a long, hard look at myself and look at people. People don't need you to spin a wheel and go, hey, you got the high scores this week. You can pick one of those 6 prizes, $100 for the keg, $50, like whatever, man. You know what they need to be able to do? They need to be able to go home and feed their family. So what we do now is we don't promise the moon, the sky, and the stars to our providers. We provide them, they can make an honest living, they can make a good living, and we know how to define that, by the way, because we understand demographics, right? And that they can find economic self-reliance through this if they do the things that they're supposed to do. When they answer the phone, so let's think about 2 scenarios. A customer calls you and says, Jennifer, oh my God, I got to have my taxes done tomorrow. I'm going to be in some trouble, and I need my receipts from last year. Turns out I can claim them. If I can just get my taxes down a little bit, I'm going to save myself $600. Jennifer, call me, Jennifer. Jennifer's going to call her, aren't you, Jennifer? You're going to service your customer. And she didn't even need to act like that because, well, she's your customer. She's going to help you feed your family. Of course, you're going to call her. But the question is that if you had a provider that worked with your organization and worked with your organization 5 years ago, and that person was an asshat, and that person asked you to provide them with their T4 for the 16th time, what attitude are you going to take? Because I know the attitude I used to take. Yeah, is that the person that never used to show up for work, quit 6 times, screwed me over here, screwed me over there? Yeah. How about don't call that person back ever? Can you block her? Right? But you know what we do now? We answer the phone and say, how may I assist you, Mary? You're looking for your T4? Fantastic. We've created a support ticket. We're going to answer those support tickets in sequence order. I expect it about 48 hours and we'll have that to you. And then we get into them in 24 hours and we say, is there anything else we can help you with, Mary? And we treat them like customers. And we don't have to do anything special. You just got to do what you're supposed to do. If you say you're going to pay them on Fridays, pay them on Fridays. If you're going to pay them biweekly, pay them biweekly. Like, just under promise, keep it simple. Return phone calls, have your paperwork in order. You know, they call and ask for something, like we can touch anything in this office in 6 seconds from like 6 years ago. Like, if you can't reach something you need within 6 seconds, like, you need to get your house in order. And what happens is, as you become more successful, then the chaos just compounds, and then eventually you got to let it burn down and fix it, right? And that's what we had to do during the pandemic. Yeah. So, like, what I'm saying is that, like, the key to getting great providers, like, you don't have to be their best friends. Matter of fact, don't. I had a Christmas party one time, and you know something? I bought my manager a pair of $300 boots. I bought my other manager, who was, just amazing, this designer purse with hundreds of dollars in it, and we went down to the Spanish restaurant, and they spent all kinds of money. And then I had, like, all the cleaners, a big party bus or 3 picked them up, and they had a special day where they got their nails done. And I mean, the list went on, man. This cost 10 grand. You know what? That had no effect whatsoever. We don't do any of that now. None. And guess what? We have fantastic human beings that are trustworthy and dependable and hardworking and accountable. All we need to do was stop trying to find that magic bullet where you do all this special stuff. Just do what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say you got to pay them more.
Just wait, Mark, because in the interest of time, I have to. Jennifer Meek wanted to ask a question before, and that's
because I was giving her a hard time earlier. That's why.
Well, no, she wanted to ask a question before, and I really would like to have her ask that question.
It's actually not a question; it's an observation. I'm with Charlotte Products. We're a manufacturer of cleaning products here in Canada, and in Peterborough, Ontario, and. I decided to come on to this call just to learn more about the people that I'm trying to market to. We take a lot of pride in educating our customers, and it's really important to understand what your challenges are. But I have to say, I'm so enjoying this, and I'm learning so much, and I'm so inspired by both Mark and Judith. Just outstanding. I mean,
Judith is a silent killer. I'm just vocal. She's a silent killer. But she's a killer. Make no mistake.
It's incredible. I mean, you're both very inspiring, and I've learned so much. And it's not exactly what I thought was going to take place on this call, but I'm so glad that I joined. So for me, looking at all of the challenges that you have is so interesting, and it's a completely different angle than what I thought I was going to get. And just congratulations to both of you. And I'm sure there's lots of you out there doing the same, and just recreating your business and thinking of different ways to to satisfy your customers. It's really great to hear all of this.
Nice kind words, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We use some of your products in our commercial spaces. I
Oh,
deal
do
with
you?
Swish
Oh,
here in
great.
Calgary. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's awesome. That's
nice to have you on the call. It's nice to
Absolutely.
see that you guys are looking at, what we're struggling with. So, you might be able to assist, and it's not necessarily most of the time it's not product. that
No,
we're
that's
struggling
right.
with.
That's what I always say. It's really easy to make innovative chemicals. It's using them properly, training. It's all of the other things that go along with that to make it successful for both you and your customers. So, yeah, congratulations to all of you. You're doing a good job.
I would say another important thing too
have
as well.
Louise, sorry,
you go ahead,
Mark,
Louise.
Louise
You
would
go ahead,
like
Louise.
to say something as well.
Hi, everybody. I'm actually from
Hi,
the
Louise.
West Coast. So, Mark, I enjoy listening to you. I was not laughing at you, but laughing because I love your
The
accent.
mainlanders are always making fun of us doofies.
No, I want to go. I want to go to the East Coast because I love the atmosphere there. But anyways, I'm on the West Coast. I originally lived in Ontario, so I wanted to find out a little bit more about some of the people that are involved with this. I'm actually, if you want to put my company into perspective, it's very small in consideration of what Mark and maybe Judith have done. But I started this company here on the island only maybe almost 3 years ago. But I started it one house at a time by myself. And now myself, my partner, we have hired a couple of people. We are hiring more people. So I've learned a lot. And, Judith, you come highly recommended to talk to because our values are very much the same in the cleaning industry. I find there's a lot of other cleaners that are just not up to a sort of a standard where we really should have some sort of a standard out there. That's why I joined ISSA last year. And it was through the pandemic when we were closed, I decided I needed to join something. I needed to learn the chemistry behind it. I took the course, so I wanted to see what's going on in Canada. Are
you going to Vegas in November, Louise?
I don't think so. I want
to. Do you drink beer? I'll give you a second chance. Do you drink beer?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, you're all right then. You're all right.
No. You know what it is? I have to run the business, not work the business. I'm working 7 days a week.
I want to speak to that, Louise.
Residential, we have business, we have...
Louise, listen for a second. You have 6 minutes left. I want to speak to that. That's very important. And I'm going to speak from experience, okay? Look, a lot of people are going to say, here's what you need to do to have a successful residential cleaning business. And a lot of them are right, but it's very different. Now, it's very important that people understand, and what I've learned, and I wish I knew, is that there's many ways to run a successful house cleaning business, okay? And yes, Michael Gerber, E-Myth, work on your business, not in it, 100%, right? But make no mistake, like there is nothing wrong with being the wealthy barber either. There's nothing wrong with being the person who cleans in the field, does all the phone calls themselves. It's very, very, very important that a person looks at where they want to be in the end and what they want it to look like, okay? Now, that needs to be assessed to see if that even makes sense. And that's when you can talk to Mark Baker, Alonzo Adams, Judith Ragg, and all these people who've kind of been there and done that. And they'll say, yeah, that's never going to happen. You need to do an adjustment, right? And so at least you know the reality. Or it's like, then you do a process re-engineering and you break it down to where you are today, right? And you lay out those steps and then you start working on it. But every time you reach a step, you got to say, okay, well, everything has changed now. I got to go back to here and I got to re-engineer it again because there's new data came in, right? But so when you say I want to work, I got to work on my business, not in it, I say, well, that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily true. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being a person who cleans in the business and has two helpers alongside of them and one other team. They're I just want to be clear, and I'm sure you already know this, obviously. I mean, obviously, you're on a tropical beach. I can see there. You're very wealthy and successful. I'm just kidding.
But that's the West Coast for you.
Yeah. But yeah, right. But jokes aside, right? Listen, I'm very serious. Like, Louise, if that's what you want for you and where you see your business being, fine. And then you got to find the business models and the business model variants that can work. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel necessarily. I had to reinvent the wheel. I'm also trying to make $100 million. So I'm trying to reinvent the wheel. So like just please do that, right? Please do that because when I hear people who find failure trying to chase someone else's success, and then they're constantly unhappy because, well, I'm not $1 million owner. Well, it's because you didn't buy my system. I really want to stress that, man. Work on your business, not in your business. Well, yes. That's my thoughts.
Go
Well,
ahead, Judith.
that's great segue because I totally agree with you on there. One, don't be ashamed if you're successful. That's great. And success, it looks different for everybody. And sometimes success for somebody looks like I was able to get out of bed and I was able to clean those 2 homes for those 2 clients.
Damn straight.
And sometimes success looks like I've got, I don't know how many people working with me and we cleaned this many homes today. Right? So success is different for everybody. So I think anybody who actually creates the time to attend these talks is great because when we started doing this, my vision for these talks was to give you specifics and to tell you our story, and then maybe you can learn from that and you can take away from that. And please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a call with anybody and just tell you what my secret, that is not a secret, is. And before we go, I actually thank you for mentioning the conference, Mark. It's going to be in November in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I understand with the traveling restrictions and things like that. I myself, I'm still kind of debating, and a lot of talk about the 4th wave coming and whatnot. And so travel is a bit more intricate right now. I would love to go. But one fun thing that I wanted to post, I'm just going to post it in here, is that the ISSA actually has a housekeeping Olympics.
It's actually IEHA, but they're a division of ISSA, but it's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. And I believe you can still register until August 31st.
Yeah.
And then I believe you can do some stuff online, and then they're going to pick some teams that can actually physically compete in November. It might not be something feasible this year, but I really do think it's a lot of fun. And I really do think that it's a great marketing material. So if, your team attends and qualifies and who knows wins, one, it's fun for your team. You can take them there. And 2, I think it's really puts cleaning industry on the map differently in a fun way. So anyways, I just wanted to share that. And it's in November
15th to the 19th.
Yeah.
And there is, they call it, given the restrictions that are still in place here in Canada, there is a peace of mind registration. So if you do register, like for early bird before September 1st, and you can't travel or don't want to travel, it's free to cancel, no charges, no questions asked. So just to share that with everybody.
Well, they have an online portion if you want to attend, but you can't. It will be online.
I don't know that. They're still working out the parameters on that.
Nothing is keeping me away from Vegas, not even the pandemic.
Yeah, I know, Mark.
I'm serious, man. I missed that last year. That is literally, I can honestly say that was what introduced me to what I don't know. When I went down to Dallas, I was like, so much.
Go ahead,
We are exhibiting in Vegas, and I had a call with our contact Iris at the ISSA on Friday and just discussing various things. And she said that there is no virtual component.
Okay.
But they are looking at the next 6 weeks to see what's happening because things are changing. So, I mean, that's where it stands right now. But I would say that, if we can't all travel, they have to do something virtually. So, I would say that's, and they do post all of the, if you're registered, all of the seminars, education seminars are all posted. So People don't realize that those are all available virtually all the time, but they're a great resource as well.
That's great.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Well, that ends our August episode. Can join us again on September 15th, I believe is the date. The invitations will be coming in your inbox. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and we'll see you in September.
See you,
Thank you.
everybody. Have a great day.
Have a great
too.
day, everybody.
Bye-bye.